Good morning, everybody. Boy, we've got a lot of stuff going on with stocks this week. We had a fairly eventful day yesterday with the stock market selling off toward the latter part of the day. Holy smokes. Stocks really went down. Um, and then overnight, the China market opened up. A they were on a holiday and now they've come back. So what's going on with China? I think there's a big pullback in Chinese stocks, and the big question is: are China stocks going to have a long-term rally, or did we get head faked? It was a pretty interesting couple of weeks. It's interesting that we had that giant holiday, which was kind of threw a wet blanket over it to some extent. And we'll see how stocks reset. We'll go over the China stocks a little bit. I'll go over the market, which is opening up higher here in the U.S. And a couple of things, the volatility is a stock investor's friend. Volatility will discount a great company like Amazon and offer it up at a nice discount for investors like myself who like Amazon to buy Amazon at a discount. So I'm good with volatility. It is a stock picker's friend. Um, so now that U.S. stocks are going up, we'll see which sectors are moving up, which sectors are moving down. I know yesterday, Super Microcomputer had a very good day. Had their shipping of GPUs was fairly high. Good for them. I think they needed some good news. That stock's really been it's really been on a roller coaster, a runaway roller coaster, in fact. And then I wanted to cover, for some reason, I thought I heard that Roblox, there was a Hindenburg report on Roblox early this morning. I'm a fan of Roblox, and I just can't get a good valuation on the stock, but I wanted to take a look at it this morning, as well as look at Pepsi, which announced their earnings, go over Amazon, we'll go over some Chinese stocks. Honeywell is really on the move. That's an industrial that it's going to be is a really well held stock that I wanted to take a look at. Of course, if you want to look at a particular stock, put it in the chat. I'll take a look at it. We've had a lot of people on, and I will apologize in advance if I miss your comment, if I missed your question, if I miss a detail in your comment. I tend to do that because I'm a one-man operation. So sometimes I'm trying to multitask and I don't read as carefully as I should. I'll try to do better. So apologies in advance if I don't see your comment well enough. Sergio, very good morning. How are you? Hopefully you are doing well. I believe you're in Portugal. Very good to have you. Brad, very good to have you. Yogi, very good to have you. And good to have all of you on the live stream. So let's take a look at where we are at in the stock market. So it looks like the Dow is opening up to the positive, S&P positive, NASDAQ positive. The Russell, it tends to just be slow out of the gate. It just kind of comes into the market, takes its time about when it's going to, really tell us what it's going to do on that particular day. So let's take a look at that. All right. So looking at Asia, what's a little funky is I think the Hong Kong Stock Exchange stayed open during the Chinese holiday. The Shanghai market closed. So I guess Shanghai needed a reset and it's up, but the Hong Kong market was down substantially, 9.41%, which is a big drop. Here's Roblox. It's down substantially. I'm going to take a look at that company and see what that's doing today. All right, so we got U.S. crypto is kind of trading, in the 63,000 range. That's good. Looks good. All right, so let's get let's get into a couple of stories that are, important to track. One of them is that we've got this hurricane, you know, uh, going towards Florida, and it's sad to think, that region's dealt with a hurricane already. I think a week and a half ago. Now we have another one, which is terrible. I hope that it gets weaker and it doesn't create as much damage and doesn't create as much loss of life as the first one. It's supposed to hit land uh, Thursday, 1 in the morning, according to this projection. This is the Tampa um, press. So they are most definitely tracking it because it's headed right towards Tampa, Florida. And I hope it gets the news gets better because this is going to be really harmful to Florida. As it relates to stocks, insurance companies sold off big time yesterday, and they are recovering a little bit today, and we'll see where they ended up. I own Allstate. It sold off, geez, like 5 or 6%. I ended up buying shares, just, figuring that, hey, they pay actuarians a lot of money and will likely be okay. They expect certain weather events to happen, and maybe they do have to pay out some claims, but hopefully, fingers crossed that it's not as bad as it seems it's going to be. So let's keep our fingers crossed for the state of Florida. Good morning, Tomas. Thank you for all your help on analyzing DLO. I'm going to cover that in a bit. And Shadow Guy, buenos dias. Good to see you. All right, interest rates, what are they doing? Interest rates had been moving up since the economy's doing well. Uh, there's no real big urgency to start lowering interest rates, and I kinda think that's a good idea. I know it's kinda like, leaving money in the bank, so to speak, for the Fed, because if we do begin to see the economy slowing, if they leave interest rates, you know, somewhere, around where they're at now, they'll have more room to lower in the future. So they'll have more ammunition to deal with a recession. So I don't think they're going to be in a hurry to lower rates. And the bond market was telling us that. So it was raising interest rates. It was saying, oh, we don't think the Fed's going to lower that fast because the economy is doing well. Now, today, you got short term rates continue to are falling, but long-term rates are rising just a tiny bit, just a tiny bit. Maybe enough for me to buy a little more into my long-term bond ETF. I'm really loading up on that because I wanna lock in higher yields on my bonds. If we end up, where interest rates are like 2 full, interest rate numbers down, I'll be really glad that I bought into bonds when at this moment, as opposed to waiting till then and going, "Oh, no, bonds are uninvestable again. Let me lock it in and have that part of my portfolio really solid." And Kiter, it's good to see you. Looks like you've got a couple questions. Let's see here. So you're looking at energy and one more FANG to add. My favorite FANG is Meta. They have a lot of good things coming up. Mexico, EWW, Mexico. So is EWW an ETF? EWW. I'm gonna look at that. I am also interested in Mexico. I'm trying to find ways to invest in Mexico because their economy is doing quite well, and the nearshoring is really important to the US. So, uh, oh, the ticker is FANG. Okay, I'll take a look at that. So I'm looking for investments in Mexico. I have kind of taken a couple of threads to look, but I think I could probably do a little more homework. Right now, I'm gonna call it 2 good investments in Mexico. They've done well. It'd be nice to add one more because it's nearshoring, right? Their infrastructure is getting better and better, and more manufacturers are going down there. A lot of high-tech manufacturers, and it's becoming quite good for all sides, right? The US gets really good access to lower cost labor. the supply chain is healthier because it's nearshoring. All those things are in play. And of course, Mexico benefits because their economy is expanding. So everybody wins in that situation. All right, sir, do you want to look at SYM? I'll note that. All right, so interest rates are, a little bit stable. Let's take a look at the market. The Dow is down, the Russell's still down. Nasdaq is the one that's rallying. Okay, so let's take a look at which sectors. Well, before I do that, let me just talk about so earnings are really beginning now. We had earnings from Pepsi. I'll take a look at Pepsi today, and it really is the beginning of earnings season. So for the next probably month, we're going to have plenty of companies to look at that are announcing earnings. So that would be kind of one of the main topics that we cover on the live streams. Um, Today we'll cover Pepsi. Tomorrow there's a number of. We have Delta announcing some of the financials, and banks are beginning to announce. The banks tend to be early in the calendar for earnings. But then we get into some really meaty ones in week 2 weeks with the big technology giants coming into the picture, and those really move the markets. So I think that's going to really be telling. And as we approach the election, I think that's going to continue to get more mind share in just the public's minds, and we'll see how that affects the stock market. Good morning, Doomy Trash. Thanks for joining. All right, so now let's look at sectors. How are sectors behaving? Which sectors are doing well? Technology, once again, it's kind of like technology is like the Tom Brady of sectors. It just keeps winning the Super Bowl. And today it's up. Communication services up. Healthcare, not too bad. The worst is materials, energy, real estate, utilities, but materials is doing quite a bit. I don't have any immediate thoughts on that. I know energy is down because oil prices came down. Now, the oil price, I would say that FYI, this hurricane is going through the Gulf of Mexico. I'm not expecting that they're gonna damage any of the oil platforms out in the Gulf of Mexico. I just think there's a risk of that, and if any of those platforms get damaged, supply gets affected, lower supply would mean higher oil prices. We'll see how things sort themselves out, but that's one of the hazards of having offshore, oil platforms is you get a hurricane come through with, big winds, it could damage your platform, then you have to spend a lot of money to repair it. So we'll see what happens there. So that's what's happening via sectors. Let's take a look at the China stocks. All right. Oof. This is like a rare steak. You go to the steakhouse and you say, "Give me rare, please. I wanna see it bleed." Boom, here's your raw steak. Um, BABA down 6.4, JD down 7.2. These are the biggest caps. It's a pretty red day in China stocks. It'll be super interesting to see where they're trading the last half hour of today's trading session. Are investors gonna buy into this dip, or are they gonna stay away? I think it'll be interesting. I'm gonna be focused on the last half hour of trading. I'm gonna be watching this particular, view and seeing where are they trading. I'm gonna be buying into China. I think that the China trade is here to stay. I think there's a lot of upside because they've been down for 3 years. The US market's been up. China the importance of China to the global economy, to the US economy is cannot be overstated. It's really important. We get so many products there, and they're coming out with so many good ideas, frankly, that they're just gonna be a player. They're gonna be a definitely a player. Tomas, you wanna look at Accenture. Let's take a look. I am familiar with Accenture as a company. So I can add comments there, and I haven't looked at their stock in a while, so let's take a look at that one. All right, so I'm gonna kind of lead things off with looking at a stock that I did a video on it. You could see it on the channel, and it's the DLO. It's not going up or down today. It's just down slightly. And this is a stock that is seeing a huge drop. And in 23, it was really caught up in a very bad story. I think there was some governments that didn't like that the platform was in their minds committing some type of fraud, and other reports were that there was some money laundering happening on the platform. So that was, I guess, we're getting a year and a half past those stories, and the stocks really sold off like 80%. So, you know, I would say that, their platform, hopefully they fixed the problems that they were dealing with. But I'm also gonna say, and not it's not to excuse CLO, it's not to be, like, overly, like, just all about stocks and profits, but I think I could go through the financial services companies in the US and show how every single company has committed fraud or has been in trouble in the United States. And one that comes to mind that blew up our economy was Bank of America. Bank of America had a mortgage arm. It was called Countrywide, and they were making mortgages to people who frankly couldn't pay their mortgages. They just creating documents that were fraudulent. That was clear fraud. Those were employees of Bank of America committing fraud. And Bank of America is all right, the brand's okay. They're just really big. So when you see a small company get into some trouble, I'm not excusing them. I'm not saying, hey, you know, it doesn't matter. No, it does matter. You should try to repair that part of your business. But let's not kind of completely throw them under the bus and say, oh, all the other companies are squeaky clean. You're the only one that's gotten yourself into trouble because your users are using the platform for illegal purposes or things of that type. So I would say that, I'm going to let the data speak for itself. I'm going to see if investor sentiment is going to kind of let that story or the stories that happened in 2023 kind of be in the past and see what the company's doing in the future. At the end of the day, DLO has to begin to grow in order for the stock to begin to move. But if it begins to grow, the stock can really move. So we'll see where it goes. We'll see where it goes. Special thanks to Tomas. He's down in Argentina, and this company is headquartered in Uruguay, and it's down in South America. To me, it's interesting just to understand what this company is doing. I kind of got a lot out of my analysis of that company, and we'll see where it goes. I'm gonna wait and see maybe a quarter. They're gonna announce on November 19th. See what kind of information they release, and maybe I become an investor. Maybe I don't. I think I'm gonna watch the stock for sure. All right, so that was DLO, and I'm gonna be watching that stock. A video is on the channel. Let's pop over to Pepsi, and then I'm gonna get to some of your requests, but let me get over to Pepsi and see what it's doing. So Pepsi announced, and they kind of brought down their guidance to some extent, but their stock is working. Now this I believe it's a consumer staple is where they're yeah, it's a consumer staple. Of course, they have beverages, Pepsi, the Coca-Cola or the Pepsi Cola that competes with Coca-Cola. They have snacks, they have beverages, they have all this kinds of stuff like that. And they pay a dividend. Now, every time I value Pepsi or Coke, I just don't I'm not in love with the valuation. I think the market cap is really high based on the cash flows. I can never get overly excited. How can I be excited about just a beverage company, a food company? Over 5 years, it's done 20%. If you add the dividends, you're probably looking at 45% return. I'm overstating there. It's probably closer to 40% overall return. 40% divided by 5 is, 8 8.5%, return. So it's a safe stock, but it doesn't provide a really good return. If I want 3% yield, I can get that. Long-term bonds will pay me 5, and they will not have volatility. Now, of course, Pepsi can pay me 8.5 if it performs as it historically has, but Pepsi can be embroiled in a big problem and the stock can go down 30, 40% as well. So you get rid of that risk when you go to bonds. So this is, Pepsi's a big cap. It's a real well-known company. It's been around forever. So that's what happened with Pepsi. All right, so let's take a look at Accenture. Then we'll look at no, I think it was Fang and then Accenture. So I think Nkiter. Okay, so Diamondback Energy caught my attention, so and this is the one you want to talk about, right? Nkiter. Got it. Okay. Yeah. So Diamondback Energy, they're an independent oil and natural gas company, and they're on the exploration side. So they're actually, you know, finding the oil and then selling it as a commodity. And they are a little bit like Occidental. Now, over the last 5 years, the stock worked 130% return. They pay almost a 5% dividend. Oil prices have been on the move. What's going to happen with Diamondback Energy? It's had pretty good volatility, and you could have bought anyone could have bought $150 shares, sitting on a nice return. The stock isn't completely out of control. It's up 27%. And when we look at the market cap, 57 billion, I think Oxy is similar to that. Um, PE ratio of 10, 11 for 2025. It's a buy rating from analysts, and it's discounted by 9.5%. This one's interesting. It caught my attention. I'm like, oh, this one looks pretty good. Um, I included it on my oil stock review and a video I created. You could see that when commodities were higher, they could make more money, but nice growth in the trailing 12 months. Really nice growth in the most recent quarter. So they're doing some things right. Um, so growth is good. Cash flow. So their cash flow, they've created free cash flow in the last 3 years quite well. The trailing 12 months up to 2 billion. 2 billion in cash flow. It's it's priced expensively based on cash flow. So I would say that the company's worth 30 billion based on cash flow, and they're priced up to 56 billion. So cash flow isn't going to get me to the valuation that they're currently at. It's going to get me partially there. I think it's the earnings per share that excites the investors, and earnings per share is expected to go up. Of course, that's predicated on oil prices. If oil prices keep rising, they're going to do really well with earnings per share. If oil prices do not rise, and maybe they fall, it's going to bring this price down. But you could see that in 2025, it's going to go up about 5%, but then it's going to be flat in 26. So not a lot of growth there. This one here is interesting with the dividend. It's in an interesting space, but it's not the right investment for me. I'm not seeing enough cash flow come out of it. I'd rather stick with Chevron or Exxon. I think oil as a sector isn't a high performing sector. You can do far better in technology, communication services, industrial materials. Oil tends to be a good dividend paying sector, and you have to buy at the right times. You have to buy when the buying's good. And I'm not seeing that the price is all that low. I'm seeing that the price is kind of on the high side. So Diamondback is not looking all that great to me. It did catch my attention, but it's not an investment I want to make. I think the price is a little too high for what I'm buying. I'd rather buy into a better known name like Chevron, Exxon, um, Occidental is better known than Diamondback, but, that's my opinion on Diamondback. All right, let's take a look at Accenture. So Accenture is predominantly a professional services company, and they do also do, strategic outsourcing, consulting, and so forth. It is a big company. We do a lot of revenue. It's a $224 billion market cap. Stock has worked for the last 5 years. They have gone up 88%. Although for the last, I'm gonna say a couple years, yeah, for the last 3 years, the stock has kinda gone sideways. Not a big performing stock. I think a lot of the appreciation happened in 2020, 2021. The PE is 31, it's a little high, 28 on the forward PE. It's a buy according to analysts, and it's discounted by 3%. So the revenue is 65 billion. That's about 3.5 times revenue for the market cap. They have been Their growth has been slowing. When we look at the quarterly growth, you can see that they had flat sales in Q2, flat sales in Q3. They're beginning to grow a little bit in their Q4. I guess they had their fourth quarter, their uh, fiscal year ends May 31. So Accenture's cash flow. So they are a positive cash flow producing company, but they don't produce a whole lot of cash flow, just 3 billion. You look at, a market cap of 224 billion, we're not even getting close. Even if we went, they're not growing. So I don't want to multiply it times too high of a number. But if I multiply this times 20, I'm getting up to like 62, 64 billion. So this has been a company that I've looked at in the past that just didn't didn't feel like I wanted to own it. There's a couple reasons is there's so Accenture is a professional services company. They have people that go and do work for their clients, or they outsource a client's technology uh, operations, and they take it to one of their outsourcing facilities. So that's good. And they also do like technology modernization projects for companies. So companies want to change their softwares, or they want to create AI, those types of things. They provide the people resources for that company to do it. It's not like Microsoft where they write a program, let's say Excel, Microsoft Excel, which a lot of people are familiar with. They wrote it once and then they sell it to 200 million people. And their cost for every incremental sale is very little because they don't have to do much. All they have to do is give people access to download it, and they make money on every incremental sale of Microsoft Excel. Well, Accenture doesn't have that luxury. If they sell more revenue, they have to spend the money on their people to deliver that service in order to recognize that revenue. So it's a very different business, very different model. I don't like the model. It's a lot like construction, where construction companies will grow, but there's a pretty big cost to operating that business. So it's my preference not to invest in companies like Accenture. As we look at the forecast, and this is why I think Charlie Munger did not like earnings per shares. The earnings per share number will show you that, oh, the earnings per share is growing. Okay, that's fine. But this is all a lot of it is accounting, um, you know, work, and they can represent a very good earnings per share number. So I don't trust this number as much as I do free cash flow. So Accenture is not a great stock for me. Um, in a good economy, these guys will flourish. We also need like big, uh, causal factors that will really generate a lot of professional services. And AI is there, but I think that's the only one that's really out there. We're seeing that the stock hasn't really worked for the last couple of years. This year, it's still up 15%, but it really sold off. It was the March timeframe. Boy, it really sold off. So that's my opinion on Accenture. Not a overly exciting company for me. I've looked at it in the past. Just didn't really think that it was a stock that could outperform my other types of stocks. All right, so Shadow guy. All right, so man, so you're getting spotty sound. Sorry about that. Yeah, I don't know. Can you guys hear me okay? Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Let me check my audio settings. Yep, that should be working okay. If anybody can hear me okay, please let me know. If I still have audio problems, please let me know. I'll try to correct them. All right, so we looked at Accenture. Let me look at Roblox, and, I think there was some bad report that hit their shore. So, coulda sworn that I heard that there was some bad report that came out that nope, looking at the wrong company. So the stock is down 5.58%, and it's a $25 billion company. The stock's really sold off. When the metaverse was super exciting, these guys were flying high, and especially during the COVID years, kids were staying at home. They were getting on their phones and playing games on Roblox, and they do have a model that resembles YouTube where they allow people that come onto the Roblox platform, develop games, and then they release them out to the public. And I'm sorry about the sound. I don't know what's going on here. So I'm gonna take the feedback into the recording and see what happens. Everything's set up, I think, correctly. But thanks for the feedback on that. All right. So this company for the past year is up 28%. Every time I look at their financials recently, it's kind of a mixed picture. Sometimes their cash flow is good, it's bad. Cash flow has really improved. You can see in 22 was bad. So 441, that's really good trailing 12 months. What's their growth look like? Trailing 12 months. Man, look at this growth. Beautiful growth. Very good growth. The cash flow is like 441. So with this type of growth, multiply that times 30. So that would be about 12 to 14 billion in market cap, and they're at 25 billion. They are a little expensive. Um, this might be worth taking a look at and putting it, into a full forecast, partially because I think it's a cool company. Uh, and I'd like to take a look at it. I'll probably do a video on it just because, again, I like the company. I like what they're doing. And again, it reminds me of YouTube where they have the same model or Facebook where Facebook doesn't create content. It allows their community members to create content and people watch it. So I'm going to take a look at it. It's interesting the stock's down. I think there was a bad story out there. Here it is. Here it is. So this Hindenburg company, they had bad things to say about super microcomputer, and I would say that we gotta somebody's gotta have kind of a measure where they go, "How many times is Hindenburg, like, really accurate, and how many times do they kinda just, you know, have a lot to say, but don't have a lot of facts behind what they say?" Because in this case here, they're saying that they inflate user metrics and they compromise child safety. Whatever, like, um I don't know about this child safety thing, right? It's you can make a judgment call, like, y I'm not gonna go out on a limb on this, but I would just say that, of course, everything's dangerous to children. Of course. Like, if you have them walk to school, they could get hurt. I put my kids behind computers when they were 2 years old, and I watched what they were doing. I kinda gave them some instructions on not to do some things that could hurt them, and I'm really glad I did so. And when it comes to Roblox, I would put my kids on it and just give them good guidance and good direction on it, because then they're gonna get involved in things that are gonna help them build a skill set and a knowledge base and a uh, or I should say, an awareness of where technology's at. So, I'm gonna read that report. I think it'll be interesting, and I'm gonna create a video on Roblox and see what see where the company's at. I'm willing to bet that someday this is gonna be a couple $100 billion company. Just their model has a lot of potential. They have developers on it with really cool games, and we'll see where it goes. It looks like Bobby Manjeet Singer wants to look at Torm. So I'm gonna look at Torm, and then I'm gonna need to go a little early today. I've got things to handle, so I'm gonna look at Torm and then go from there. The symbol is Torm, I believe it's over the counter minerals. So market cap of 7.4 million. Whoa, this is a tiny company. Am I looking at the right company? They do have revenue. They're losing money. Okay, where are these guys located? So this is a United States company, specialty chemical. They're in Delaware. So they do alumina, trihydrate. Okay. Not familiar with that material and its uses. This one's a tough one. It's a low dollar stock. It's over the counter. It's not on the main board, and they are kind of a slow growing, no growing company. They're small, and the concern is they're losing money, so that's not good. They're burning a little bit of cash, $1 million over the trailing 12 months. They did create some cash. This one is just a little too small. Um, I'd be willing to invest in a company that was small if I really knew the industry. I don't know this industry really well, so this one just is not something I could touch. You had another one out there, Rev TRMD equals TRM. Maybe I looked at the wrong one. There we go. So Torm PLC, a shipping company, owns a fleet of product tankers in the United Kingdom. Operates two operating segments, tanker and marine exhaust. Okay. So they're moving oil, $3 billion company, 1.6 billion in revenue. Okay. Really low PE. These PEs are really, really low. Wow. Holy smokes. This is a multi-bagger. Now, is it going to keep going up? Is the question. Will this keep going up? It's up 20% in the last year. That's really good performance. This is a small cap, but holy smokes, the returns are massive. Very nice. And they pay this massive dividend. Holy smokes. Let's take a look at their revenue. So we got revenue has really gone up and it's been stable for the most part. It really went up here. They probably acquired some vessels and became bigger because they acquired more assets. But still, their revenue is stable, which is very good. Looking at their gross profit, very good gross profit. The reason I say that is you got 1.6 billion of revenue and 942 million make it to the gross profit line. So that is, it's about 60% gross profit. That's very good for an industrial company. Um, let's see if that makes it to the bottom line. Net income, very good net income. Very good profit in the last 3 years. They're doing something right, and the market agrees, right? The stock's really up. Free cash flow, 427,000,000. That's in the trailing 12 months. Oh, man, this one, I think you can buy this stock and collect that dividend, uh, and if that dividend I mean, that I think is an analogy, and it's gonna be a pun. If that dividend floats your boat with the shipping company, this is a pretty interesting investment. Like, it's not an investment that I expect it's gonna keep going up at this rate. I think the rise was because they doubled in size, and I'm willing to guess that it was because they acquired more vessels, and they had greater capacity to provide the shipping that they provide customers. So, um, is it gonna appreciate at that rate for the next 5 years? I don't think so. I think the big rise is done. Do I expect them to rise at 20% going forward? I don't expect that either. I don't expect a 20-year return. But if you're happy with this dividend, I mean, who wouldn't be? This is a phenomenal dividend. Um, that'd be interesting. I think they can afford it. Let's take a look at the dividend payout. The payout is 91%. That is pretty high. So maybe they trim it back to 15%. It's still a phenomenal dividend. See, the dividend for this company does go up and down based on their profitability, but I mean, they're paying out $1.80 was the last ex-dividend date, $1.80, and they paid it on September 11th, $1.80 per share, and that's for the quarter, right? They pay them quarterly? Yeah, they pay them quarterly, so holy smokes, if you look at $1.80 times 4, you're at $7.20 in dividend payments, and the share price is $32. Holy smokes, that's a lot of income. So, interesting company. I think they're a solid operator, very interesting company. I don't I'm not I'm not jumping into shipping companies again. I owned Zim for a while. Before that, I used P&L, and maybe I do gotta open up my mind around shipping is, before Zim, I did really well with Pan which is a tiny company, smaller than these guys, and I did really well with that. So, I'm gonna take a look at Zim, Pan look at Torm, maybe a couple others just to keep my eye on them, and see what I wanna do there, but, again, I did well. I've done well in shipping for, I'm gonna call it 4 years. I've gotten in and I've gotten out. Right now, I feel like I need to stay out, but at some point, I wanna go back in, kinda do what I did on 2 previous occasions. So that's my review of that one. Today, I'm gonna need to cut a little short. I've got some things to get to, but, I think we're we covered a couple good symbols. Take a look at the market once again, and it looks like, Bobby, I think I covered the right symbol, TRMB, and, gave you that review. Yep, TRMB, so we're good. So, markets, where are we at? Where are we at, stock market? So it looks like the Nasdaq is flourishing. Dow is falling behind, the S&P is right in the middle, and the Russell is lagging just a slight bit. That's probably what the Russell's gonna do today. The you know, small caps, you gotta be a really good stock picker in small caps because in general, they're not performing great. So, that's just one observation that, and it's partially because small caps, they're not big enough to really show up NASDAQ or the S&P. Their market caps are like 5, 10, billion, where you got like Apple at 3 trillion, right? So when Apple sneezes, the market moves. Where when a small cap moves 20% to the upside, nobody notices. So that's, I think it's part what's going on. You got to be really good at picking the right stocks in small caps. So looks like Roblox is coming back. All right, cool. Go gamers. We'll see where it ends up. Oil companies are selling off. Question is, will oil prices go down substantially or will they rise from here? I don't know that oil prices are going to go down a whole lot more. I think the oil price that we're at is probably going to be the oil price going forward. It could rise a little bit, fall a little bit, but it's going to be around the same price. All right, so that is it for today, everybody. Thanks for joining. I appreciate it. You can interact with this community in a variety of ways. The one that I'm going to point to is going to be the Discord channel. It's really useful to me, and I think for the people that get involved. Here's the Discord details, and this information is in the details of the live stream. It's also on my channel. Uh, you're free to join. Just be very careful with scammers. They're all over the place on Discord. It's unfortunate that that is a reality, but just remember that there's scammers out there. If you ever get an invite from me, or you think it's me, it's probably not me. It's a scammer. And if you study the names very carefully, you're going to see that there's one slight detail that's different. What they're trying to do is make you think that you're engaged or talking to me, and then try to scam you. So be aware of that. I'm never going to send anybody a friend request on Discord. If somebody does, it's not me. So be very, very careful. But you get a lot of value by being part of the Discord. And I think just this morning, I read 10, 12 different things. We've gone over China, we've gone over a variety of stocks. And I encourage you to be a part of it. I think if you're a part of it, the whole community conversation is going to get that much more valuable for everyone as we talk about a variety of different stocks and a variety of different topics of the day and of the week. So take a look at the Discord, and everything else is up there as well. These details are in the video. All right, everybody. Good luck today. Let's see where the stock market goes. I appreciate you joining, and we'll catch you on the next live stream. Take care.